I started off with just the High Mountain Court thinking, it was during the pandemic. I'd been writing my whole life and thinking about publishing my whole life. But I think the pandemic, like for a lot of us, kind of forced us to be more creative and find our outlets for things. And I have two small children. And so I was like, I need to do something creative. I need to have kind of control of this small little world. And so I wrote the High Mountain Court thinking maybe I would see where it goes. And then I thought, oh, I really like all these side characters. Wouldn't it be great if I knew what was going to happen with them in my mind already. So I thought, oh, go on, we'll give each of them their own books too. I want to see each of their journeys and have them each have their own romance and fall in love and things like that. So, but the title, The High Mountain Court, it came out of two different places. It both came out of, living in New Zealand at the time, and the Swiss Alps, not the Swiss Alps, the Southern Alps, and like all of these beautiful high mountains. And then it also just came out from a simple, like, what words are going to tell people what this book is about, from a very practical standpoint of, this is a fantasy book. If it has the word court in it, if it's a set in mountains, it's like a very simple way of doing it too, where I had been calling it that as kind of like my stand-in placeholder title. And then I thought, this just makes sense. I'll just call it this. And then the Five Crowns of Okrith became that because I knew by then I wanted to have 5 books, and each one would be about a different character, kind of possibly, hopefully, assuming the role of the crown of that court. And the Okrith word I had made up, and I just thought, if anybody knows how to spell it and can search it, I'm going to come up first. And so I thought, there's no competition for that title. So I kind of thought of it from that standpoint too, which and in some ways is less Googleable because people don't, it's a made up word, but in other ways, if they do know it, then they can always find me. Yeah. TikTok was the only platform I was using at the time. I didn't have any other social media presence. I had a fledgling newsletter that I was trying to get off the ground with a couple hundred people, but it was really, and I didn't have that many TikTok followers at the time, a couple thousand. But it was enough where I was able to really directly connect with people who were very excited about this book. And I was able to get people who wanted to sign up for arcs of the books and people who were excited to tell other people about it. And it was really, I think you'll find that most of the people who have a lot of success on TikTok, it's not their own account that is the one that's really going out there and telling everyone about their books. And it's not the one that's driving it. It's all the readers. It is a platform for the readers. And it was all of the readers who I'd connected with over all of my silly videos who were really excited for me and excited for this book. And they went out and started telling everyone about it. And it really took off in a big way from there. Put out a call for arcs, and I had like 300 people sign up in the first day. And I thought, wow, this might be something. And then I thought, maybe they're just saying they like it because they're nice or because they like me. And once it released and it started finding an audience beyond me and people who didn't know me, and they were really resonating with it and starting to share it with other people, that's when I realized, oh wow, like, I had this moment of I might need to go hide for a while because I was so introverted and not expecting it to kind of take off in the way that it did. And so I think it had, over 1 million page reads in the first month in Kindle Unlimited, and it sat in the top 1,000 of the Amazon store for 8 months, and was really just kind of ticking along, finding an audience continuously. Yeah. So the Evergreen Heir, I'm super excited for this story to come out. I think Nilo is definitely the character that so many people wanted to hear their story. And they are a neurodivergent, non-binary bookworm. They have real black cat energy, and their story is very much grumpy sunshine, which is just so much fun. And I think that pretty much any book lover will feel seen in their character and how much they would rather be in a library and how much they think about library design and their kind of dream library with the ladders and the shelves and things like that, always hiding books around the place so that they don't have to have a conversation with someone when they don't want to and things like that. So on one level, I hope that they're a very relatable character for a lot of people. But then also they use they, them pronouns. They're a non-binary character. That might be a character that people haven't read as a main character in a story before. And it's been really wonderful having people like, you know, my mom, for example, read the arc of the Evergreen Heir, and by the end of it, she was so much more comfortable using they, them pronouns than when she did at the start. And I think so much of it is just giving ourselves opportunities to read this in dialogue and in the written form more. It gives us a shorthand into that language and how we use it. And I really hope more people will feel confident and comfortable to use they, them pronouns after reading this story, but also realizing that this character is just like them in so many ways too. Evergreen Heir is book 4 in the 5 Crown series. And so there will be a 5th and final book that will be coming out hopefully next year. I'm excited to talk about book 5 because it's just been sent in and it's just starting to kind of get off the ground. And book 5 is tentatively called The Amethyst Kingdom. And it's kind of a culmination of a lot of things that are happening with violet witches and kind of the magic brewing in the world. And it is also Karis's story, who's one of the main characters from the first book, who a lot of people have been wanting for her to have a book since the beginning. So it's exciting to kind of like end her story with a bang and the series with quite a big chaos in the world. And, you know, her story is enemies to lovers, second chance romance. And so there's just a lot more there too. It's also on a deeper level, kind of a story about depression and about mental health and kind of navigating the world. And I feel like fantasy is such a great backdrop to that because the responsibilities feel so epic. The world is so heightened that, you know, when we're going through struggles in the modern world, it might not feel as epic as it feels inside of us. And so I really loved playing around with that within the world of fantasy and witches and magic and monsters and things. The main character, Kala, is a twin who is basically kind of the backup twin, a secret twin, just in case something happens to her twin sister. They are basically kept in hiding for most of their life, and then are sent off for her sister to be married to this prince. And then everything goes horribly wrong, as it always does. And in this world, all of the main characters are wolf shifters, which is just super fun. And for me as a former wildlife biologist, like getting to write this wolf shifter story is just like, I mean, who doesn't want to be a wolf shifter? And also the love interests are just like so steamy when they're, you know, like that animalistic side as well. And so in the story at the very beginning, it turns out that the person that her twin sister is betrothed to turns out to be her mate. And then chaos ensues as a evil sorceress shows up and puts her sister in a sleeping curse. So it has a little bit of Sleeping Beauty kind of inspired in there, but basically it's like, what if Sleeping Beauty wasn't saved by a prince, but by her sister? So this whole series, the Golden Court trilogy, is all first person point of view. Which was very interesting as I was finishing writing the 5th and final book of the 5 Crowns, which is in 3rd person, and moving back and forth to the Golden Court trilogy, which is first person. But I just felt for the character, she's going through so much internally that I really wanted to have that first person point of view, so that you could really see what's going on in her world. She comes from this very like the wolves are basically the ruling class, and they are the ones who kind of basically decide what the world is. And as she goes off on this journey to save her sister, she meets humans and discovers a world that's much more vast than she realized, and especially with her sexuality and her gender identity. she realizes that the world isn't as binary as she thought it was, and there are more possibilities for who she could be. And so at its core, it's really a journey of self-discovery. And I felt like first person really lent itself better to. I hope that my stories kind of reflect that internal conflict for some people. These are the books that I kind of wish I had when I was in university, and like going through a lot of these like bigger kind of self-discoveries and things like that. There's, a lot of neurodivergent characters, there's a lot of queer characters, there's a lot of discussion of mental health. And I feel like all of my characters at the root are kind of outsiders. And I think all of us at some point in our life have felt like we didn't belong, or we didn't fit in, or we couldn't ask for help, and learning that it's okay to need people, and learning how to build relationships with people, things like that. I feel like that kind of more intimate writing is really like nicely juxtaposed to the bigger epic kind of fantasy world. And I like having both of those. I think it would feel kind of flat if there wasn't those very kind of intimate internal conflicts also happening at the same time. And I do hope that, people read these stories and maybe feel like I'm not just speaking to the main character, but I'm also speaking to them too, and hopefully giving them something that they can hang on to. And I've definitely had people, like tattoo quotes on their body, or send me emails saying something really resonated with them, and, helped them through a difficult time. And that's huge for me because, I initially wrote it to kind of almost as like a love letter to my younger self of the things I wish somebody had told me then. So yeah, that's really beautiful.